Welcome to our episode. Today, my name is Katie, by the way, and I want to talk about teamwork. So, a lot of the corporate work that I do is based on teamwork. And it's funny because I didn't think it was a big deal. I didn't think teamwork was as important. I thought everybody knew about teamwork. And then little by little, I started realizing I don't know that there's a class that teaches you how to be a good team member. And then I said, wait a minute. Sports is a great team sports. I think is the best teacher of teaching teamwork in a hands-on way, right? Because I almost feel like, how do you teach teamwork? I think you kind of have to just jump in and be part of a team to understand what winning for the greater cause. You're not winning by yourself. You're not trying to be, the winner alone. You need the rest of the team in order to make the win. So actually, recently, I put my children into a team sport because of that. Because I thought, I want them to understand what it means to be part of a team. If you play a sport that's just you, like let's say if you play golf and it's based on your own individual performance, it depends, right? Because there's teams that your personal performance contributes to the rest of the team. You're not really playing a dynamic. So like, for example, I was in track and fields, and in track, you run your hurdle, your 100 meter, 300 meter, and based on that will contribute to your win, but you're representing your school. But I'm not running 100 or 300 meter hurdle with other teammates. It's just myself. So I think the dynamic of playing with other team members at the same time in order to win, to get that winning score, is what I consider to be teamwork. And I think that's what's happening nowadays. It's becoming, I feel like it's always just been a challenge, right? Like being a good team player in your family, for example, right? In your own unit, like mom, dad, and kids, for example, right? In every family, you have like the social planner. For example, the social planner is the one that makes the plans for the weekend, right? Oh, okay, like let's say I invite my friend, hey, you want to go out this weekend? She goes, oh yeah, but talk to my husband. He's the one that knows what we're doing this weekend, and he's the one that's going to plan it out. I'm like, okay. And then in my family, I'm the social planner. So if there's something going on, they know they have to ask me because I'm the one that has the plan, the weekend agenda of like what we're doing and what's the weekend going to look like. So that's just an example of family dynamics. You have the social planner, you have the one that's the organizer, you have obviously like in a family where the children are so small, it really just comes down to like two people. But when you're dealing with family, extended family, like cousins and uncles and aunts and grandparents, they all have a role. And I think playing in a team and understanding each person's strengths and weaknesses is crucial to being part of it and not excluding yourself out. And for me personally, I don't know. I don't really know how to do that because I never played in a team sport. I had to learn it. And it's still a struggle because I want to just do what I want to do all the time. And without realizing, wait a minute, I'm part of a team. I'm part of this family. I'm part of these friends. I'm part of, this company. I can't just do what I want to do. I have to compromise. I have to find the happy medium. And for somebody like me that just wants to do what they want to do, it can be a really big struggle. And so I just wanted to share a couple of tips of how you can be a good team player, whether it's, again, in your family life, in your friend group, at work, so that your contributions and the way you feel about being a team player won't affect you negatively and you won't feel bad about it. So the first thing I wanted to say is, everybody has different personalities. And I know that seems very obvious, but I think sometimes we think what's important to me is what's important to them. And each family member, for example, thinks something else is important to them. So for example, I went last year on a really, crazy trip that I planned. And one of the things that wasn't important to me was being in the car for 8 hours because of where we had to go. But for another family member, it was very important that they couldn't be in the car for 8 hours. And Then for another family member, it was something else that was more important, right? They didn't care about nice accommodations, where another family member cared to be in nicer accommodations for their own reasons. So every single personality in a team can create what's important to them. And so in the corporate world, it's called silos, right? Each person has their own reason to justify why this is the most important thing, why this is the most important thing, why this you have to consider, why this you have to consider. But when you're part of a team, you just have to agree to disagree and come to a compromise. That's it. I was having a conversation the other day about vacations and how hard it is to plan a vacation with friends or other couples, and the dynamics of trips with friends or other people that are not your unit can be so challenging, because you went from your team that already understands the dynamics and the compromises that need to be made to now adding another group that now becomes part of this larger team now that has to all go together. And I feel like every dynamic for all those trips should have like their own rules and guidelines. Like these rules have to be discussed from the beginning. I will never forget one of my friends. She's amazing. And she said, we were planning a trip together and she laid out the ground rules from the beginning. And as soon as she said that, I felt like such a relief. And I said, oh, this is going to be great. And basically what she said was, hey, this is the trip that I planned. This is what I plan on doing. If you want to join in to these activities, you join in. If not, feel free to do whatever it is that you'd like to do. And then we reconvene after. No pressure. You're paying for your vacation. I'm not paying for your vacation. So you can do anything you want. Even if we only see each other one time, that's okay. We're together. We'll cross paths when we cross paths. It's okay. I'm not going to get offended. I'm not going to get upset. And for me, that was the best, because there were some other trips that I've been on where everybody has to do everything together. Whether you agree or you don't agree, you still have to commit. And for me, that was so stressful because I felt like I had no say in the plans, or I didn't really feel like doing what they were doing. And I think that's when the conflicts start on vacations, right? When you realize that what you wanted to do is not exactly what the other person wants to do. And then there's the break off, right? The separation. Okay, now this person goes here and this person goes there. But there should be like a balance, a happy medium to be able to compromise and say, okay, like come up with the rules. So one of the things I would say, that's when you have conflict in teams, any kind of team, it's usually because there's no ground rules. And ground rules can be adjusted, can be changed at any time. They're not static. You can move them around. And if you, from the beginning, you set these ground rules, it'll make life easier. So having the rules, understanding that each person's going to have their own opinion, and that's okay. And that's what makes it more, what makes their priorities. You got to respect it. You don't have to agree with it. You just have to respect it. And then in conversation, come up with a happy balance of what is acceptable in the team, what's not acceptable, what to do, what not to do. The other thing is understanding that each person has their strengths. So for example, in my, when I travel in groups, I love to come up with ideas. I like to research and come up with different stuff. I like that. And then if you ask me to come up with an itinerary, I'll come up with an itinerary. And so in my family dynamic, I'm the planner. I'll come up with the itinerary and the different plans and stuff like that. And that's my strength. So if we travel in a group and somebody is looking for a person to do that, that would be me. Whereas if I'm looking for someone that's, making the reservations, right? That's very organized and booking the stuff. Maybe that's not me. Maybe that's somebody else. And so knowing everyone's strengths in the team and who you can delegate or who can plan what is extremely important, because I also see what happens in teams is that one person feels they need to take all the responsibility because they do not want to delegate, because if it's not done in the way that they imagine it, it's not going to be done right. And every single person in that team has a strength and also has a weakness. And you are no different. You have a strength and you also have a weakness. So for me, I could plan this whole idea, but my execution of it and the booking of it is not my forte. So I would ask somebody in my team, hey, can you help me with the booking of it or the execution of it, right? And so that's, I think, really important, is to know your strengths and be able to delegate those. And I mean, know your strengths, say it, and then whatever your weaknesses are, be able to speak to that in your team and see who else would not find that their weakness and would actually find that their strength. And then I think the other thing is knowing when to compromise. I feel like many times people, okay, let me not say that. Sometimes in teams, there could be a member that wants to take the lead all the time. And then the other team members might start to resent that team member because they're not taking everybody else into consideration. So if this is you, or you know someone in your team that is like that, they might not be aware that they are like that, or they might be aware, but they can't help themselves. So I think just as like, I throw in like daily reminders of things that we know, but we forget. This is another one of those, is at the table, when you're about to execute on a project or a plan or a trip or anything like that, let it be known, hey, please, when we're putting this together, let's make this a team effort. This is not about the MVP, right? This is not about who can shine the brightest in the team. This is about who can come up with a plan that will be a winner for all, right? A winning solution. And listen, I get it. I know sometimes it's not that easy to please everyone. You can't please everyone, and it's not like that. But when it comes to for more personal stuff and even work stuff, not everybody's going to agree. But you have to go with what's going to be best for the overall goal. And that's what has to take precedence. It's what's the overall goal. So if you have your goal and you have your set of rules from the beginning that, again, are fluid, can change, things will go smoother in whatever team dynamic you're in. And remember to know their strengths, to know your strengths, to know their strengths, their weaknesses, your weaknesses, and be able to tell your team members what slack they can pick up from you that might not be your forte, and vice versa. And lastly, remember that everyone has a different personality, a different story, a different way they were raised. If you are able to understand that, you won't clash with the people so much and disagree with why that's important versus what's important to you. So that's a little tip on teamwork. Hopefully it'll help you next time you're in a situation, on your next trip with friends, on your next project at work. And next time you're with your family trying to figure out what to do or come up with a plan. All right, see you next time. Bye.